Before I start reading, though, I'd let you know we're going to play test this down at the Merlin's here in Spokane. We're going to get together with a number of gamers and try to play this pretty much out of the box. A few people got copies of it. And see how it was with the old school original. Even those of us who've been gaming, I've been gaming since '79, didn't really get to experience this really original version. I was first introduced to tabletop role-playing game around '79 or so, thanks to an older cousin that was visiting. And as was the case for most, was introduced through Dungeons & Dragons to role-playing gaming. There were probably tens of millions of Americans and elsewhere that were introduced to Dungeons & Dragons, D&D, in the late '70s and early '80s, mostly around the time of TSR's release of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons First Edition, or the boxed basic D&D set. There were a number of versions and changes between the original and the AD&D that we grew up with. And on the website I show photos with various examples of the book covers that probably the majority of role-playing gamers from my generation grew up with. You can check that out on rpgresearch.com in the blog section. And I show a number of different versions. Though most of us started role-playing gaming with these early sets, they were not the version of D&D that started it all. The handmade, hand-stapled, much smaller format and page count paper booklets made by Gygax, Arneson, and others that formed into TSR were much more the style of the then popular wargaming booklets, a la their chainmail system prior to D&D. Oh, by the way, the rules in here state that you don't need miniatures, but in your equipment you need your rules, you need your dice, you need chainmail miniature rules, latest edition. Notebooks, graph paper, sheet protectors, binders, scratch paper, imagination, one patient referee, and players. Not character sheets, you just write them on regular paper. But notice that reference to chainmail. I think it would have been a good idea. I haven't delved into it far enough to say for certain yet, but maybe they should have bundled chainmail with this box set. I think that would have been nice to include a version of that. Anywho, I managed somewhere in the '80s to pick up this version I was mentioning of Blackmore for about $6 and have held on to it ever since. Though I never actually played the original D&D, many of my cohorts have a nostalgia for the heady early days, as well as myself. So Wizards of the Coast apparently has seen fit to capitalize on this with a reissue of all the original Dungeons & Dragons White Books, bundled in this nice wooden box with fancy dice. And you can see the actual still photos in more detail again on the website. And I mentioned Merlin's here in Spokane. We'll be running a game soon, and it'll be interesting if we can run 20 people. That would be interesting to see. So there's that, and I will go ahead and read to you now the foreword from Book 1, Men and Magic, Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson. Once upon a time, long, long ago,